Alright, so get this, the US, we're talking over 334 million people crammed into this country. Sounds like everywhere should be shoulder to shoulder, right? But here's the wild part, the part that blows my mind. Nearly half of this entire landmass is, for all intents and purposes, practically empty. We're talking vast stretches of land where you're more likely to see a tumbleweed than another human being. It's a crazy thought, all that open space in a country this populated. And today we're not just going to talk about it, we're diving headfirst into it. This is your fast-paced, no-filter tour of the biggest, the emptiest, and honestly some of the most stunningly beautiful and remote states America has to offer. We're going to peel back the layers on these places. From the absolutely brutal, soul-crushing winters you'll find in a state like Montana, where just stepping outside can feel like a challenge, to the never-ending, wide-open plains of South Dakota, where the horizon just keeps going and going. We're going to dig deep into the why. Why are these states so incredibly sparsely populated? Is it the extreme weather, the sheer isolation? Are they genuinely as unlivable, as harsh, as they sometimes seem from the outside looking in, or is there a different story? A hidden appeal that most people just miss? So here's the question I'm throwing out to you, right now. Do you think you could actually survive in these kinds of wild, untamed places? Not just survive, but maybe even build a life, find your peace? We're about to explore all of that, so buckle up, this is going to be an adventure. And hey, before we kick this off for real, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button, absolutely smash that subscribe button. If you haven't already, you know you want to, and ding that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any more of this fast-paced, on-the-ground travel content. Let's get into it. First up on our journey into America's beautiful emptiness, Maine. Now when you picture Maine, what immediately jumps into your head? For a lot of people, myself included, it's those iconic, rugged coastlines, the classic lighthouses standing guard against the moody Atlantic, and these incredible dense forests of pine and birch that seem to stretch on forever like a green carpet over rolling hills. It's like every photograph you've ever seen of Maine is a perfect postcard, genuinely beautiful, no arguments from me there. But here's the catch, and there's always a catch, isn't there? The flip side to all that picturesque scenery is the stark reality of what it takes to live there year-round. Those winters, man, they are absolutely not messing around. We're talking a serious bone-chilling cold that seeps into your very core. Mountains of snow that can and will cut you off from the rest of the world for days, and a kind of profound, almost palpable isolation, especially in the more remote northern and inland parts, that can really test your mental fortitude if you're not truly, deeply prepared for what you're signing up for. A significant portion of Maine, especially away from the southern coastal strip, is just incredibly remote. We're talking miles and miles from the nearest decent-sized town, let alone a bustling city with all its modern conveniences and distractions. For some folks that sounds like an absolute dream, right? The ultimate escape from the noise, the crowds, the pressure. But for the vast majority of people, that level of remoteness, that lack of easy access, is a massive, insurmountable hurdle, a total deal-breaker when it comes to choosing a place to live and raise a family. So you've got this constant, fascinating tension, this raw, untamed natural beauty, this almost magnetic pull of the wild, clashing head-on with the sheer unadulterated practicality and sometimes brutal difficulty of everyday life. It takes a very specific, incredibly resilient and self-sufficient kind of person to not just survive, but to actually embrace that demanding lifestyle, to find the profound beauty not just in a perfect sun-drenched summer day by the ocean, but also in the stark, frozen, silent landscape of mid-January when you haven't seen a neighbor or a plowed road in days. That's the fundamental trade-off, and it's precisely why Maine, for all its undeniable, captivating charm, remains one of these beautifully, stubbornly empty states. Next stop, Wyoming. If there's one state that truly embodies the concept of empty in the lower 48, it's this one. Listen to this. Wyoming has the absolute lowest population density in the entire contiguous United States. Think about that for a second. Fewer people per square mile than anywhere else. You can literally drive for hours, and I mean hours, across its vast plains and high deserts and see more pronghorn antelope, more bison, more wild horses than actual human beings. It's just these enormous, wide-open spaces, punctuated by epic, jaw-dropping mountain ranges like the Grand Tetons and the Wind Rivers, rugged, challenging terrain that looks like it's been lifted straight out of a classic John Wayne Western movie, and that untamed, raw beauty, that sense of limitless horizon, is precisely what draws the hardcore adventurers, the dedicated climbers, the backcountry skiers, the folks who want to get seriously, profoundly off the grid and test themselves against nature. But that very same ruggedness, that same almost overwhelming epic scale, is exactly what keeps the big crowds, the urban sprawl, the dense populations, far, far away. Trying to build and sustain a major city out here in the middle of nowhere? It's a monumental logistical and economic challenge. Expecting to find a familiar coffee chain on every other corner or a shopping mall packed with all the latest brands? Not happening. Not even close. Wyoming is a state that doesn't just encourage self-reliance, it fundamentally demands it. It's a place for people who are comfortable with solitude, who don't mind being a tiny, insignificant speck in an absolutely massive, indifferent landscape. It's breathtakingly beautiful, it's undeniably wild, but it's simply not engineered for the kind of comfort, convenience, and constant connectivity that most of modern America is built upon. That's the core of the Wyoming paradox. Its greatest, most defining strength, its wild emptiness, is also the primary reason why it's so remarkably persistently unpopulated. Alright, now we're going way north. We're talking about Alaska, the last frontier. And let me tell you, that nickname isn't just some marketing slogan, it is the stone-cold reality. If you thought Wyoming was empty, Alaska takes that concept to a whole other dimension. This state is unimaginably vast, bigger than Texas, California, and Montana combined, yet it has a population smaller than some mid-sized American cities. The sheer scale of the wilderness here is almost impossible to comprehend until you see it. We're talking colossal mountain ranges that disappear into the clouds, immense glaciers that carve their way to the sea, and endless tundra that stretches further than the eye can follow. The natural beauty is off the charts, truly awe-inspiring, the kind of raw, primal landscape that makes you feel incredibly small and alive at the same time. But living in Alaska, that's a commitment on a whole different level. The extreme cold in many parts of the state, especially during the long, dark winters, is not just uncomfortable, it can be downright dangerous if you're not prepared. We're talking temperatures that make your face hurt the second you step outside. And then there's the remoteness. Many communities are not connected by roads at all. They rely on small planes or boats for everything: supplies, travel, medical emergencies. This isn't just rural, this is true, deep wilderness living. It breeds a certain toughness, a resourcefulness in the people who choose to call it home. Despite the stunning, almost unbelievable natural beauty, the harsh climate and the logistical challenges of just existing mean that Alaska, for most, remains a place to visit, to marvel at, but not to live. It's for the truly adventurous, the undeniably resilient, and those who find solace in profound isolation. Chapter 4, Montana. Big sky, big empty, big winters. Let's head back down south a bit, but still firmly in big and empty territory, Montana. Big sky country. And man, they are not kidding about the sky. It just goes on forever. A massive, endless dome over these sprawling landscapes. You've got everything from vast prairies in the east to the absolutely stunning rugged peaks of the Rocky Mountains in the west, including Glacier National Park, which is just one of the most beautiful places on Earth, period. It's a paradise for anyone who loves the outdoors: hikers, fishers, hunters, people who just want to breathe clean air and see stars so bright they look like you can touch them. The sense of freedom, of unspoiled nature is incredibly powerful here. You can really feel like you've stepped back in time, away from the noise and the rush of modern life. But then there's always a but with these empty states, right? Montana's winters are legendary, and not in a gentle storybook kind of way. We're talking long, hard, and bitterly cold. Snow can start early and stick around late, making travel difficult and daily life a constant battle against the elements. Beyond the major towns like Bozeman or Missoula, which are growing, much of the state remains incredibly sparsely populated. The distances between towns can be huge, and services can be few and far between. It takes a certain kind of hardy soul to embrace that, to not just tolerate but actually thrive in a place where nature is so dominant and human presence feels so minimal. So while Montana offers this incredible connection to the wild, its challenging climate and the sheer scale of its emptiness mean it's not for everyone, keeping its population numbers relatively low despite its undeniable allure. Chapter 5. South Dakota. More than just Mount Rushmore and way emptier. Alright, let's venture into the heartland, to South Dakota. Now most people, when they think of South Dakota, they probably picture Mount Rushmore, maybe Deadwood and the Wild West, or the otherworldly landscapes of the Badlands. And yeah, those are all iconic pieces of Americana, definitely worth seeing. But what often gets overlooked is just how incredibly most of this state is. We're talking vast, wide-open plains that stretch as far as the eye can see, a place where the wind seems to blow constantly across endless fields of grass or crops. It's a landscape that has a very subtle, understated beauty, a quiet dignity that you really have to slow down to appreciate. The sense of space here can be almost overwhelming if you're used to more crowded environments. The rural lifestyle is deeply ingrained in South Dakota. Agriculture is king, and life often revolves around the seasons, the planting, and the harvest. This contributes significantly to its low population density. Big cities are few and far between. It's mostly small towns, tight-knit communities where everyone knows everyone and a different pace of life prevails. For those who appreciate solitude, who want to escape the constant stimulation of urban living and who find beauty in the simplicity of the plains, South Dakota offers a unique kind of charm, a genuine peacefulness. But the harsh winters, the economic reliance on agriculture which doesn't support massive populations, and the sheer sense of being out there mean it's not a magnet for large-scale settlement. It's a place that demands a certain appreciation for the quiet, for the vastness, and for a life lived a little closer to the land. Chapter 6, Idaho, potatoes, mountains, and not many people. Let's talk about Idaho. Famous for potatoes, right? And yeah, they grow a lot of them and they're good. But Idaho is so much more than just its star carbohydrate. This is a state of incredible rugged beauty, with some of the largest unspoiled wilderness areas in the lower 48. We're talking deep river canyons like Hell's Canyon, the deepest in North America, towering snow-capped mountain ranges like the Sawtooths, and pristine forests that seem to go on forever. It's a place where you can genuinely get lost, in the best way possible, if you're into that kind of thing. The opportunities for outdoor adventure here are insane: world-class whitewater rafting, epic hiking and backpacking, skiing, fishing, you name it. But all that rugged, remote terrain also makes large parts of Idaho pretty challenging to live in or even access. While places like Boise are growing and becoming quite trendy, a huge portion of the state remains incredibly sparsely populated. The infrastructure to support big populations just isn't there in many areas because, well, it's hard to build roads and cities on the side of a mountain or deep in a forest. This makes it a magnet for people seeking an off-grid lifestyle, for those who want to be self-sufficient and live life on their own terms, far from the reach of mainstream society. But for the average person looking for convenience and community, the wildness and remoteness of Idaho can be a significant barrier, keeping its overall population density low, despite its spectacular natural assets. It's a state of dramatic contrasts, from its agricultural heartland to its untamed wilderness. Alright, let's head north again to North Dakota. This is a state that often gets stereotyped as just being flat, cold, and maybe a bit boring. And yeah, it can be incredibly cold. The winters here are no joke, with brutal winds sweeping across the plains, making those sub-zero temperatures feel even more intense. A lot of it is quite flat, especially in the east, dominated by vast farmlands that stretch to the horizon, part of America's agricultural breadbasket. This landscape, while not as dramatically mountainous as some other states on our list, has its own stark, open beauty, especially if you appreciate huge skies and a sense of immense space. It's a place where you can really feel the power of nature and the changing seasons. But North Dakota is more than just farms and cold. In the western part of the state, you've got the incredible rugged beauty of the Badlands, Theodore Roosevelt National Park, a place that deeply inspired the president. And for a while, there was a massive oil boom that brought a temporary surge in population and activity, though the state remains fundamentally rural. The low population density is a result of that challenging climate, the agricultural focus which supports a dispersed population rather than concentrated urban centers, and a general sense of remoteness. However, for those who love the great outdoors, who enjoy hunting, fishing, and a quieter way of life, North Dakota offers a surprising amount. It's a haven for people who aren't afraid of a little weather and who value solitude and community in equal measure. It's a tough place, but it has a quiet resilience. Let's talk about Nebraska. Often labeled flyover country, which, honestly, is a bit unfair because every place has its story, right? But there's no denying that Nebraska is another one of these states, with a whole lot of land, and not a whole lot of people, relatively speaking. It's a state that's absolutely central to America's agricultural heartland. Driving through Nebraska, you'll see endless fields of corn, soybeans, and vast cattle ranches. It's the kind of landscape that feeds the nation, and the work is hard, tied to the land and the seasons. This agricultural focus means that the population tends to be spread out across rural areas and small farming communities, rather than clustered in massive urban centers. Omaha and Lincoln are decent-sized cities, for sure. But much of the state is characterized by this quiet pastoral emptiness. The perceived monotony of the landscape for some, combined with a climate that can swing from hot humid summers to bitterly cold winters, means it's not always top of the list for people looking to relocate. But what Nebraska offers is a peaceful, often more affordable, and a decidedly quiet way of life. There's a strong sense of community in its small towns, a slower pace that can be incredibly appealing if you're looking to escape the frenzy of more populated regions. The Sandhills region in particular is a unique and beautiful ecosystem of grass-stabilized sand dunes, surprisingly vast and wild. So, while it might seem empty to an outsider just passing through, Nebraska provides a stable, grounded existence for those who call it home, even if their numbers are few compared to the sheer size of the state. Last but not least on our tour of America's emptiest states, we're heading to New England to Vermont. Now, Vermont is a bit different from some of the massive western states we've looked at. It's much smaller in terms of sheer land area, but even so, it consistently ranks as one of the least populated states in the country. When you think of Vermont, you probably picture charming small towns with white steepled churches, rolling green hills. It is the Green Mountain State after all. Vibrant fall foliage that people travel from all over the world to see, and, of course, maple syrup. And all of that is absolutely true. It's got this incredible, almost storybook New England charm, a real sense of history and tradition. The reason Vermont stays so sparsely populated, despite its beauty and appeal, has a lot to do with its commitment to preserving its rural character and natural landscapes. There's a strong resistance to unchecked development and urban sprawl. Life here tends to move at a slower, more deliberate pace. The economy is largely based on agriculture, dairy farms are huge, tourism, and small businesses. The winters can be long and snowy, which, like in Maine, adds to the challenge but also to the cozy, insulated feel of its communities. It's a place that attracts people who are looking for a high quality of life, a close connection to nature, and strong local communities, rather than big city amenities or fast-track careers. So, while it's undeniably beautiful and has a unique culture, Vermont's dedication to staying Vermont keeps its population small, making it an idyllic if quiet corner of the country. Alright, that's the grand tour, folks. 9 states, 9 incredibly different but equally massive, beautiful, and yes, profoundly empty corners of this vast country called America. We've journeyed from the rugged, icy coasts of Maine and Alaska, to the sweeping, endless plains of the Dakotas and Nebraska, and through the towering, wild mountains of Wyoming and Montana. We've talked about the absolutely brutal winters that will test your very soul, the kind of deep isolation that can be both a blessing and a curse, and the sheer, unadulterated grit and self-reliance it takes for people to not just exist, but to actually build a life and call these often unforgiving places home. It's a completely different way of life, isn't it? A world away from the constant noise, the traffic, the hustle and bustle that so many of us are completely submerged in every single day. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? All that incredible open space, all that profound quiet existing right alongside our packed cities. So after seeing all of that, after hearing the stories and imagining the realities, the big question I threw out at the beginning is now back squarely on your shoulders. Could you actually see yourself living in any of these remote wild spots? Could you make that trade, swapping the glaring city lights for the unbelievably brilliant starry nights, exchanging the daily traffic jams for the occasional herd of bison or a moose crossing your path? I'm genuinely super curious to hear what you guys think. Is the idea of living in one of these empty states your ultimate dream, a vision of peace and freedom? Or does it sound more like a challenging, isolating nightmare? Let me know. Drop all your thoughts, your wildest relocation fantasies, your fears, everything down there in the comments section below. You know I read them, and I love seeing what you all are thinking. And of course, if you stuck with me through this entire epic journey across empty America, first off, you are an absolute legend. Thank you for your time and attention. Second, you know the drill by now. Do the thing. Give this video a big thumbs up if you dug it, if it made you think, if it showed you something new. Definitely, absolutely, positively smash that subscribe button if you want more adventures, more explorations, more dives into the fascinating corners of our world like this one. And please, please, please ding that little notification bell so you don't miss out on whatever crazy thing we're cooking up next. We're always out there finding new stories. Thanks again for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. See you in the next one.